So this is the daily suppress, which is committing a rare event and actually publishing semi-truthful item saying that Arcadia breakup experts net 1.2 thousand pounds per hour. 1.2 thousand pounds per hour. Now that's the item that says Moneymen handling the collapse of Sir Philip Green's Arcadia empire are set to earn 25 million in fees, 25 million pounds at today's prices. Documents have shown accountancy giant Deloitte, now the group's administrators, estimate the firm will rake in up to 1,200 pounds per hour. An Arcadia worker who had been earning 13 pounds an hour and is now due to lose her job described the amount being pocketed by Deloitte as absolutely disgusting and a joke. The employee who asked not to be named said, "We've been trying to get information from them, but it's always, we cannot confirm. Deloitte, along with PwC, EY, and KPMG, is one of the group of powerful accountancy firms known as the Big Four. It was appointed administrator for 27 Arcadia-linked businesses in November. The accountant is tasked with raising as much money as possible from selling assets to pay back those left out of pocket by Arcadia's collapse. Around 500 million has been recouped so far, mainly through the sale of its brands, websites, and some stock. Average time costs for Deloitte staff is expected to be more than 600 pounds an hour, but in one area of work it is 1,202 pounds. And it goes on. And it doesn't. The report in the Beaverbrook Legacy of Lies, the Daily Suppress, is of course carried as a rare item of admission about the crooks. The evidence of his career of the crook and pimp, Philip Green, shows that he's a pimp, literally. Look it up. Because he has had published by the Fleet Street papers over the years, literally hundreds of photographs of the so-called fashion model Kate Moss with his hands around her as if she is a property. And the only reason why a pimp and a thief of Philip Green's description could be allowed to do that repeatedly is that he is in business. And Kate Moss would never allow anyone who would not pay her the sum that she received from Philip Green. So it's the highest bidder in the market for flesh. And none of the Fleet Street organs has ever commented on this pimping and prostitution. So this pimp has been in business as a pimp and is being called a tycoon even after his multi-billion pound theft has been confirmed. Now, contrasting with this criminality, the Channel 4 series attacking the people in poverty should be seen as evidence that the British media is the most corrupt media in this country, because the Channel 4 had no right, no outlet had any right to attack the victims of poverty created by the government, by the institutions, by big business criminals and thieves and pimps like Philip Green, and left unaccounted for by the big four accountancy prostitute organizations, because they are actually in business acting as certifiers of organized robbers and looters, big companies, while they are silent on the organized criminalization of the victims of criminality, like the single parent moms or the single parent kind of dads, who numerically is smaller because of other imperfections and faults prevailing in the corrupt judicial bureaucracy and the corrupt central government departments. Now, if they get £1,200, what is it about? What are they doing actually to justify even £13, which is what this particular ex-employee has been having to live on? And she has been doing work, physical, mental, and organizational work for the Arcadia crooks. So what is the definition of work and what is the definition of service? There is no source. There is no record of the corrupt English judiciary ever making any substantial decision about what constitutes work and what constitutes work of such exceptional alleged quality that justifies criminals being paid £1,200 per hour. Doing what? The fact that the English judiciary has never done that is not exceptional. That's the norm. That is the role of the English judiciary. And the Murdoch dirty digger scum is continuing the promotion for the vaccine. Now, this is being done by intentionally ignoring, deliberately being in denial about the consistent kind of concern about the safety of the vaccine. Number one, safety, and number two, effectiveness of the vaccine. And this is something that should never be allowed to be done by the Fleet Street liars, because it's effectively denying people the basic information about the safety and the effectiveness. Safety of the vaccine and the effectiveness, because in the context of the international concern, there is no proof that the vaccine is reducing the rate of infection, let alone being scientifically reliable as the preventer of further vaccination post injection, and that it doesn't. The widespread concern is that it doesn't support the claim that the various strains that are being reported about the virus having various strains that resist the vaccine. This is increasing. The news and the information about the concern is on the rise, on the spread, because of the rate and the incidence of the new, stronger, more powerful virus that beats the injection, beats the kind of inoculation. And they've got the scum has gone to town with 2 pages of spread with 2 of the most opportunistic celebs. And I got a new page, which contains contradictory but racist kind of copy. Because they are attacking Meghan while they're celebrating Eugenie having her first baby on the same page. And the World Health Organization, so-called, is this one correctly running on pages, 2 pages, about the World Health Organization being found to be colluding with the Chinese regime in hiding the full facts about what happened in the in the Chinese city, Wuhan, in 2019, where the virus escaped from laboratories, and the other kind of structures, buildings in the city that should have been protected. And the stooge, the right-wing stooge, the Sikh origin woman called Catherine Barbal Singh, is a recruit to the crooks of the UK government, propaganda and the racists. And she is now being given the spot on the Murdoch scum to add her manufactured status as an expert in education, that school children and their safety should be ignored by being made to attend schools, despite the fact that the virus is nowhere near over. And they've got 2 pages on the vaccine. 2 pages spread 22 and page 23. So what is happening is that they're directly, desperately lying and denying the evidence that the virus is far from beatable or beaten in Britain. And they're at the same time repeating the Boris Johnson backing lie that school should return. They're not talking about safety. The word safety is not anywhere, is not mentioned anywhere. And the newspaper is continuing to fester in lying with the headline today, "New COVID variants are under control." That's a lie. That's a lie even in the copy. And let's have an idea about what the copy underneath that lying heading is saying. The first paragraph of that lying piece is a direct contradiction of the heading. The heading says, "New COVID variants are under control." But the first paragraph underneath that says, "Mutation of the highly transmissible UK strain." Now that is highly transmissible UK strain. There's a 4-part contradiction of the heading. The British variant raises concerns over the effectiveness of vaccines. Couldn't be more contradictory and more corrupt, more misleading and more untruthful, and more dangerous, more irresponsible, and more negligent of the safety of the people. And then it includes another part. The United Kingdom may run out of quarantine hotel rooms for international arrivals from red list countries within days. This is the second calendar year and they're not ready. And they're lying. And so this is the pattern of Fleet Street lying. And the same pattern is being repeated, perpetrated, perpetuated by the others. Now, the front page of the Daily Mail is misleading again, but not about the virus as such. But the theme is equally misleading because it's actually running a propaganda for Leon Britain. Britain is spelled Britan, Leon Britain. Now, Leon Britain was in post while Thatcher was in post as Prime Minister. Leon Britain was a cabinet member in the name of the Home Office. Now, this one is completely false headline about the Metropolitan Police in London. Not because we have any kind of brief to support the Metropolitan Police propaganda or the impunity that the Metropolitan Police enjoys. And so therefore their headline is totally wrong and absolutely untruthful, because in the kind of copy underneath the and around the headline, the Daily Mail does not show the evidence, any evidence whatsoever, that the Daily Mail actually is interested in holding both the Metropolitan Police and other police forces across England to legitimately warranted account. That's not what the Daily Mail does. What it is doing is using tactfully the pretext of giving a voice to Leon Britton's wife, Lady Britton, about the investigation carried out during Leon Britton's life by the Metropolitan Police into allegations of sexually abusing mainly white boys by gangs of Christian church people and politicians. So what this is saying is Leon Britton's widow breaks silence about child sex abuse probe. That is a lie, because even before he died, Leon Britton himself and his promoters have broken their silence many times. So they have never been silent. They have persisted in denying the allegations that had been raging for many years, that Leon Britton was a child sex abuser, that is, a rapist of white boys. And then they say, in heartbreaking testimony, she savages police for moral failure. And the Daily Mail is not a protagonist, a promoter, or a supporter objectively of moral duties, nor is it an opponent or reporter of moral failures generally. And then it says in the third kind of emphasis, Tom Watson damned for most despicable thing a human can do. Now we have this campaign, and I, Muhammad Haque, personally have exclusive evidence that Tom Watson himself was a careerist, opportunist, abuser of political position. And we have been openly and exclusively, that is to say, while no one else has done what we did, publishing comments condemning Tom Watson as a liar long before any Fleet Street paper or any other political or politically aligned outlet or output said anything similar to what we have been saying right from the beginning. And our exclusive analysis of Tom Watson, the crook and the liar, got reinforced after Jeremy Corbyn got in as the leader of the Labour Party. Because our visual evidence on which we based what we said at the beginning against Tom Watson was the fact that every time the then newly kind of appointed or elected leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, was before the television cameras, it wasn't Corbyn who was the focus of the cameras. It was Watson. And although Watson himself got elected deputy leader at the same time as Jeremy Corbyn had done, Watson didn't have similar claim to appear before the cameras to the leader of the Labour Party at the time, which is, in the context of the time, Jeremy Corbyn. So we did our contextual analysis based on the evidence of Tom Watson, dating way beyond the Levison inquiry, which was set up under the political pressure created by a number of particularly active Labour Party MPs. Chris Bryant from Wales, who is known as Rhonda Bryant on Twitter. Chris Bryant was one and Tom Watson was the other. Now, there was no evidence accessible throughout the time, nor is there, as we make this exclusive diagnostic updater commentary on Tom Watson on the 9th of February 2021. There was no evidence to support that Tom Watson was engaged in any way a moral campaign against the Fleet Street Papers, especially against the Murdoch titles like The Sun and the News of the World. And so therefore, what we found was that Tom Watson was placing himself in front of the camera for a purpose that was not defined and a purpose that was not stated by the newly elected Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party. And we found evidence that Tom Watson was involved with the City of London Corporation, and that he, whenever he did that, he boasted about a racist member of the clergy who is a dubious member of a so-called aristocracy. This criminal racist became an elected member of the City of London Corporation. And Watson was very much involved in the election of this racist clergyman spy. So Watson was boasting about this particular racist criminal and saying words to the effect that this criminal, racist, liar and spy was the kind of carrier of the achievement by the Labour Party, having a Labour Party member as an elected member of the City of London Corporation, which is completely banal and stupid. Because this racist criminal liar never did an honest work as a so-called political kind of entrant. And his election was actually mainly, significantly, due to the lies he said to the Bangladeshi electors in the Mansell Street, Ali Street area, whichever was the nearest, and was covering the particular ward of the City of London Corporation. Now, our campaign has had involuntary contact with this liar since 2001, and we shall discuss the contents of those contacts in due course, not in this particular part or in this particular edition. We go back to the Tom Watson being damned for most despicable thing a human can do. That is the Daily Mail quoting Leon Britton's wife. And The it says it's an exclusive item by Stephen Wright, Wright, which reads as follows. On the left of the page, on the right of the actual screen, on the right of the front page of the Daily Mail as well, is a picture of what they call Lady Britain. And the Stephen Wright exclusive reads as follows. Leon Britton's widow speaks out today to attack a culture of cover-up at Scotland Yard. Remember, this is a piece allegedly about the culture of cover-up and lying by the London Metropolitan Police, which is collectively also called Scotland Yard. Very misleading in view of the fact that Scotland is increasingly seen as already culturally independent of the UK and most certainly independent of London. Now it says, in a bombshell Mail interview, which is a complete decoration of lying, Lady Britain breaks her silence to accuse the leaders of Britain's highest police force, biggest police force, of lacking a moral spine. She points out that no officers have been punished over the years' shambolic BIP pedophile inquiry. Now, when any publication or organ or platform uses any form of the word shambolic, it gives away the game, it gives away the agenda, because shambles is not a crime. Shambles is a protective term that protects the image of the object of the description, shambolic. So they are not saying that the Metropolitan Police personnel who did the shambles had committed any crime. And that is where the splash collapses. And the other reason is that the Daily Mail did campaign throughout Leon Britton's life, or the part of Leon Britton's life during which he was accused of sexual abuse of white children. There are two reasons. One is that Leon Britton was a right-winger, and the other is that the Daily Mail always supported and supports right-wingers. And secondly, that the owners of the Daily Mail, or the owners of the Daily Mail group, are personally connected with several of the conservatives and several of the clergy people who are rapists and committed rapes of white boys. Now imagine if a fraction of the allegation or alleged sexual abuse had taken place and had been committed by any African or Asian person. The outrage by the Daily Mail would be unthinkable, unthinkably strong. The racist criminal at the City of London twice behaved, three times behaved racistly, idiotically, and we shall be coming to those incidents in due course, not necessarily in this part or on this edition, except to say that somebody like that is disqualified from being described as an achiever of democratic representation on behalf of the Labour Party at the City of London. By City of London, the criminal, Tom Watson, was obviously implying that that was beyond access by the Labour Party, which he said was the opposition to the financial crimes and criminality and racism that the City of London was and is and remains and had been. So, what we are doing here is talking about the Daily Mail promoting the lie that Leon Britton's wife is actually criticizing the Metropolitan Police. She is not. The Daily Mail is staging a facade, a falsehood that it is critical of the Metropolitan Police. It is not. Even despite the fact that the Daily Mail dishonestly called the murderers of Stephen Lawrence, the black youth, in April 1993, the Daily Mail later, not when the murder took place, they later described those murderers as murderers on the front page. Now that is very significant because the Daily Mail is the racist newspaper. And here it was attacking in a staged headline the murderers of a black youth. And it was remarkable for various reasons. The most important being that the racist Daily Mail was calling Stephen Lawrence's racist murderers. That is inconsistent with the record of the Daily Mail. That is inconsistent with the policy of the Daily Mail. And the answer to why then the Daily Mail did that lies in the fact that the editor of the Daily Mail happened to know the father of the victim of the racist murder. Coincidental, totally accidental, totally unintended. But Neville Lawrence did the work as a decorator years before, or not connected with the fact that his son would be murdered. And he, for that connection, he told the editor of the Daily Mail what happened about his son or to his son. And that was the one that triggered the editor of the Daily Mail to ask its staff to do the research, and they did the research. And based on that, the Daily Mail's editor did a personal favor to the father of the victim of the racist murder. It didn't change the Daily Mail from being a racist newspaper generally, one bit. And it didn't really produce the long overdue account or accountability by the Metropolitan Police owed to society. So we shall be talking more about the Daily Mail and Fleet Street collusion and racism in later editions and parts